So there I was, standing under the blazing sun in my parents' backyard, holding a plastic container of store-bought pasta salad, while my dad cracked a joke about me still answering phones for a living. My mom snorted into her wine glass. My sister rolled her eyes and whispered something about dead weight. Then out of nowhere, this sleek black Tesla glides up the driveway. A guy in a sharp suit jumps out and yells across the lawn, "Excuse me, Madam Emily, what are you doing here?" Everything stopped. My dad's hot dog hit the ground. My sister went pale. My mom's wine glass shattered. Why? Because I'm not just some secretary. I'm the CEO of the company my sister works at. And not just that, I'm the owner. They just never knew. Hey, I'm Emily, I'm 32, and I've been keeping a giant secret from my entire family for the past 3 years. See, everyone thinks I'm just an admin at Thompson Industries, the girl who answers phones, files papers, and probably lives paycheck to paycheck in a tiny apartment with IKEA furniture. That's what they've always assumed. And I let them. All the while, they kept comparing me to my sister Olivia, Miss Perfect, marketing director, designer heels, always talking about her team and launch campaigns. My parents loved to brag about her. Me? I was their just-get-by daughter. But what they didn't know is that I bought Thompson Industries 3 years ago, quietly, smartly, through a chain of shell companies and private deals. I've been the real bossing off on budgets, launching products, growing our revenue into the hundreds of millions, all while letting my family think I was some office nobody. This is the story of how one family BBQ blew the lid off everything, and how I went from being their biggest disappointment to the only person at that party whose name they'll never forget. Every single year, the Johnson family BBQ felt like deja vu in the worst way. Same setting, same people, same judgmental energy. The backyard would be filled with folding chairs, paper plates, and that weird salad Aunt Kathy always brought that nobody touched. The air smelled like burnt hot dogs and tension. My mom would greet everyone with her fake perfect smile, but when her eyes landed on me, it dropped just a bit. "Still a secretary, Emily?" she'd ask, like it was some kind of crime. Her voice always had this tone like she was embarrassed for me. My dad, never missing a chance to pile on, would chuckle while flipping burgers and throw in his usual jab. "You've got no drive, kid. Your sister's already running departments? And your Watson's phones?" They always said it like it was some kind of joke, but to me it didn't feel funny. It never did. Olivia, my golden child little sister, would come in wearing her newest designer outfit, nails perfectly done, with stories about her big pitch or how the CEO said, "I'm the only one who gets things done around here." They'd all nod, hang on every word, like she was royalty, and me? I'd stand there quietly, holding my little container of grocery store pasta salad, playing the role of family failure. I let them believe it. I leaned into it even, because the truth was too complicated, and honestly, too powerful. I didn't want their attention, not like that. But that doesn't mean it didn't hurt. It did. A lot. Every time they made those offhand comments, every time they made me feel small, it chipped away at me. I remember one year they sat me at the kids' table, since you don't have much to add to the adult conversations. I was 30. It's funny now, but at the time I just swallowed it down like warm soda, awkward, painful, and leaving a bad taste in my mouth. The worst part wasn't even the jabs. It was how easily they dismissed me, like I was invisible, like I hadn't done anything worthwhile in my life. And they had no idea. They didn't know I was working 80-hour weeks, running international teams, negotiating million-dollar contracts from behind the scenes. They didn't know about the 2 MBAs I earned in night school or the PhD I finished while just answering phones. They didn't know I bought the company Olivia worked for, that I controlled every budget her department ever saw, that every single win she bragged about was greenlit by me, and they never once asked, because in their eyes, I'd already failed. I didn't hide it because I was ashamed, I hid it because I wanted peace. I didn't want calls asking for loans, or cousins begging for internships, or my parents suddenly acting like they'd always believed in me. I'd seen it happen to other people. How money changed things, and not always in good ways. I liked my tiny apartment, even if my kitchen barely fit one person. I liked my cozy wardrobe of Target sweaters and worn-out jeans. I didn't need recognition. I just wanted to build something that was mine, free of anyone else's judgment or expectations. But even the strongest walls crack when they're hit hard enough, And after years of this, I was reaching my limit. I was tired. Tired of holding my tongue while they tore me down. Tired of pretending like their words didn't matter when they did. Tired of making myself smaller just to keep the peace. There was this one moment, I remember it clearly, when Olivia laughed and said, "Emily probably doesn't even know what a marketing funnel is." Everyone laughed, even my uncle spit out his beer. And I just stood there, smiling. I wanted to scream. I wanted to say, "I designed the funnel you use every single day at work, Olivia." But I didn't. I bit my tongue so hard, it hurt. That night, driving back home alone, I cried. And I'm not someone who cries easily. But that night, something shifted in me. I realized I wasn't protecting my peace anymore. I was protecting their comfort. And for what? So they could keep feeling superior? So they could keep laughing while I stood quietly in the corner? No, I deserved more than this. I deserved to be seen. I deserved to be respected, not because I made millions or had fancy degrees, but because I worked for it. Because I earned it. Because I was damn good at what I did. I didn't want applause. I just didn't want to feel like I had to hide anymore. I was done playing the part they wrote for me, and even though I didn't plan it, even though the BBQ wasn't supposed to be the moment where everything came out, something in me knew, this time, something would be different. Something would break. And when it did, they'd never look at me the same way again. This year's barbecue started out just like all the others, and I honestly thought I'd get through it the same way I always did, be staying quiet, nodding along, and pretending I wasn't completely over it. I wore a plain sundress, nothing flashy, just something light because it was boiling outside, and in my arms, the same old plastic container of store-bought pasta salad. It was almost a joke at this point. Me and that sad salad. I knew nobody would eat it, they never did, but I brought it anyway just to check the box. The backyard looked like a postcard. My mom had the lawn trimmed to perfection. My dad had the grill going, smoke puffing up like some kind of signal in the sky. People were already tipsy off cheap wine and gossip. And the judgment? Thicker than the grill smoke. My mom saw me first. She gave me that smile. Not the warm kind, the "you still haven't done anything with your life" kind. "Oh, Emily," she said, her voice already filled with disappointment. "Still working that secretary job?" I took a breath. "Yeah, Mom. Still at Thompson Industries." She nodded like I had confirmed all her low expectations. Before I could even reach the cooler for a drink, Olivia showed up. Miss Goldenchild, of course. She looked like she was stepping off a reality show set. Designer purse, perfect hair, air of someone who truly believed the world owed her applause. "Mom!" she shouted, loud enough for everyone to hear. "You're not going to believe this. The CEO himself complimented my marketing campaign today." I nearly choked. I'd seen the actual email. It came from her team lead, not the CEO. And let's be clear, I knew exactly what the CEO thought because I was the CEO. But sure, let her have her moment. My mom clapped her hands like a seal. "That's incredible, honey. You're so driven, unlike..." Her voice trailed off as she looked over at me like she couldn't even finish the sentence. I was just background noise to her. Olivia flicked her hair and smirked. I smiled. I always did. Then Aunt Lena came over, clearly on her third glass of wine, teetering like a tipsy flamingo. "Emily, sweetie," she slurred, "have you ever thought about, I don't know, taking some business classes? I just think you have potential. You could do more than answer phones." I smiled again, just like always. I didn't tell her I had 2 MBAs and a PhD in business strategy. I didn't say that I ran global teams and handled multi-million-dollar acquisitions. I didn't say I had made 8 figures last year. I said, "Thanks, Aunt Linda. I'm good." She patted my arm like I was a child who drew outside the lines. My dad decided to throw in his usual wisdom. "No ambition," he said, waving his burger. "Olivia's out there making real moves, and you're still stuck." It was always the same script, and I was always the same easy target. And I let them. Because staying silent meant staying safe. If they didn't know who I really was, they wouldn't ask for handouts, wouldn't fake support, wouldn't suddenly start acting proud of me. My life was peaceful, private, and on my terms. But that day, something felt different. As Olivia went on bragging about her big company meeting next week where the CEO would finally show up in person, I smiled to myself. I knew exactly why the CEO was going to be there. Because I was ready. Because it was me. I had stayed in the shadows long enough. I had built something real, something massive, and I was done pretending I hadn't. The timing wasn't planned. I wasn't trying to make a scene. I really thought I'd keep my secret one more year. Bite my tongue one more time, but fate had other plans. Just as I reached for a soda, a black Tesla rolled up into the driveway, and I froze. I knew that car. My heart skipped a beat. Ethan, Olivia's boss, one of the very few people who actually knew the truth. Olivia perked up immediately, fixing her hair, checking her reflection in her phone. "Oh my God, that's my boss," she whispered, practically glowing. "What's he doing here?" The car door opened, and Ethan stepped out, looking cool, casual, but sharp as ever. His sneakers alone probably cost more than the family grill. He scanned the crowd. Then his face lit up. "Madam Emily," he called out, heading straight toward me. "I didn't know you'd be here today." My dad dropped his hot dog. Literally. It bounced off his flip-flop. My mom's wine glass slipped from her hand and shattered on the patio. Olivia looked like she'd just seen a ghost. The entire backyard went dead silent. That was the moment everything changed. The mask was off, and there was no going back. I took a deep breath, smoothed out my dress, and gave Ethan a calm smile like nothing about this moment surprised me. "Hey, Ethan, welcome to the family barbecue." You could have heard a pin drop. The silence was so loud it buzzed in my ears. Everyone stared like I had just sprouted wings. Olivia blinked at me, her voice shaking. "You're the CEO? That's not possible. You're just a secretary." I stayed cool. "Actually, Olivia, I own Thompson Industries. I've been the CEO for 3 years. My dad's jaw clenched, and his face flushed purple. "What kind of joke is this?" Ethan stepped up beside me and spoke clearly. "It's not a joke, sir. Emily is one of the best CEOs I've ever worked with. Since she took over, the company has tripled in value." My mom looked like she might faint. "But you live in a tiny apartment. You bring pasta salad in plastic containers. You wear Target clothes." I looked her straight in the eye. "I choose to live simply, Mom. That doesn't mean I have to." Around us, the backyard exploded with whispers. Aunt Linda was already Googling me, her face growing paler by the second. Uncle Michael choked on his beer. Olivia looked like someone had punched her. Ethan, realizing what he'd just exposed, tried to step back. "I'm sorry if I overstepped. I just thought I'd swing by to talk about the Morgan acquisition." Olivia shrieked, "This is insane! I've been working my butt off to impress the CEO, and it's been you this whole time, watching me fail?" I looked at her with steady eyes. "I wasn't watching you fail. I was running a company. Your promotions, your reviews, your performance bonuses, they were based on your work, or in some cases your team's work that you took credit for." Her cheeks flushed with guilt. She knew I wasn't wrong. My dad snapped, "You're lying, Emily. You can barely make a decision without help." That one stung, but I was ready. "Want to see my bank statements, Dad? Or the company's board minutes with my name on them? Or maybe just ask Aunt Linda. She's probably reading my Forbes profile right now." Aunt Linda mumbled, "It's true. It's all here. She's the real CEO." My mom sat down heavily, shaking her head. "Why didn't you ever tell us?" I sighed. "Because every time I made a move you didn't understand, you tore me down. When I left my job to build something new, you said I was fired. When I moved to a smaller place to save money for investments, you said I was a loser. I didn't hide my success to hurt you. I did it to protect myself from your judgment." Ethan shifted awkwardly. "Maybe I should go." I shook my head. "No, Ethan, stay. Let's just get it all out now." I turned back to my stunned family. "I've worked harder than anyone here could imagine. I built this without favors, without shortcuts. And the way you all treated me when you thought I was a nobody, that showed me exactly how much I could trust you." Olivia's husband, James, suddenly looked nervous. "Wait, were you the one who rejected my office request?" I gave him a polite nod. "Yes. We don't give private offices to mid-level managers." Some people laughed under their breath. Olivia looked like she might cry. Uncle Michael jumped in. "This Morgan acquisition, is that tied to the European merger?" "That's confidential," I replied without blinking. Then I turned to Olivia again. "And about that raise you keep bragging about, it's not happening. Your team has the highest turnover in the company, and your latest campaign copied a competitor almost word for word." "This is discrimination," she cried. I raised an eyebrow. "No, Olivia, this is merit. I'm your sister, but I'm also your CEO, and we don't promote bad leadership," my mom finally whispered. "All those years, all the things we said." I cut her off gently. "Yeah, I remember every word. Every dinner where you made me feel like less, every joke, Every time you sat me at the kids' table, I let it slide because I didn't need to prove anything to you. But now, I don't need to stay quiet anymore." My dad looked 10 years older in that moment. Olivia just stared at her shoes. Ethan tried to lighten the mood. "For what it's worth, Emily's built one of the most respected companies in the industry. She runs it with integrity, and our team is better because of her." I reached into my purse and handed an envelope to my dad. "This is the deed to your house. The mortgage is paid off. Consider it a thank you for all the doubt you gave me. It pushed me harder than your support ever would have." He stared at it, speechless. Aunt Linda gasped. Olivia looked ready to faint. I turned back to Ethan and smiled. "So, about that Morgan deal, want to go discuss it over dinner? Somewhere peaceful, away from all this." As we headed toward his Tesla, my mom called after me. What about the barbecue?" I turned one last time, glanced around at the half-eaten food, the stunned faces, the shattered wine glass, and smiled. "I'm done here," I said. "I've got a company to run." Driving away from that chaotic backyard, Ethan finally broke the silence. "I'm really sorry for dropping that bomb on everyone. I didn't know they had no clue who you really were." I laughed softly, a sound lighter than I'd felt in years. "Don't be sorry. Some truths need to come out, whether planned or not." He glanced at me, concern flickering in his eyes. "You okay?" I thought about all those years I spent shrinking myself to avoid their harsh judgments. The nights I stayed silent so they wouldn't see the real me. And now, how strange it felt to finally be seen. "You know what?" I said, watching my parents' house disappear in the rearview mirror. "I've never been better." The next week, I walked into Thompson Industries wearing a sharp power suit instead of my usual modest dresses. Employees whispered and did double takes as they recognized the secretary they'd ignored for years. Olivia was standing outside my office with a new ID badge that showed she'd been transferred to a smaller branch across town. It was a tough decision, but a necessary one. I glanced at an old family photo I'd kept hidden in my desk, a younger me, standing apart from the rest, already learning how to be invisible. I shredded it, opened my laptop, and got to work, running my company the way I always wanted, living my truth. The secretary act was over. The CEO I'd always been was finally here to stay. My family was still reeling from the barbecue bombshell. My phone buzzed non-stop with texts from relatives I hadn't heard from in years, suddenly pretending to be my best friend with great business ideas. Aunt Linda called about her son's startup needing funding. Uncle Michael wanted to handle our legal contracts. My mom's bridge club friends even showed up at reception, claiming to be family. I had security send them away. My mom started bringing homemade lunches to my office, trying to make up for years of neglect with sandwiches and apologies. "Why didn't you tell us?" she asked, nervously rearranging photos I always tossed out as soon as she left. "Really, Mom? Remember my college graduation? Olivia got a car for making Dean's List, and I got a lecture about wasting time on business courses." She looked ashamed. "We wanted what was best for you." I shook my head. "No, you wanted what looked good to others." My dad sent me newspaper clippings about Thompson Industries, scribbling in the margins, "My daughter did this. Emily's company. That's my girl." The same man who called me useless just weeks before. Olivia was the hardest to deal with. She filed a complaint accusing me of discrimination because we were sisters. HR investigated and found she'd been stealing credit, faking timesheets, and misusing company funds. I gave her a choice: resign quietly with a decent reference or get fired publicly. She chose to resign, but not without a meltdown in my office. "You're ruining my life," she screamed, mascara streaming down her face. I stayed calm. "You mean like taking credit for your assistant's work? Or faking expense reports?" I slid her resignation letter across my desk. "This is more than you deserve, but you're still my sister." She grabbed the paper, shaking. "You think you're perfect now, don't you?" I looked at her honestly. "No. I just stopped letting this family decide my worth. My parents kept texting, begging me to fix things with Olivia. I sent back screenshots of her fraudulent reports and asked, 'Want me to press charges instead?' They stopped texting after that. I overhauled the marketing department, promoted overlooked talent, and set up a merit-based system. Thompson Industries does not do nepotism, and it never will. 6 months later, I went to Thanksgiving at my parents' house, his time arriving in my Tesla, dressed in clothes that screamed CEO. The shift was wild. Relatives who had ignored me before now hung on my every word. Aunt Linda bragged about having a CO niece. Uncle Michael proudly displayed a Thompson Industries article on the mantle. Olivia didn't come. She'd taken a job at a smaller company, finally working for her own merits. Word was she was doing okay. At dinner, my mom raised her glass to Emily, who showed us success doesn't always look like we expect. I raised mine quietly, and to being real, that always beats looking good. As I left, my dad stopped me. He looked older, uncertain. I was wrong, he said softly. About everything. I nodded. Some wounds take time to heal. Back at work, my assistant buzzed in. Your mom's here with lunch again. I smiled. Tell her I'm in a meeting. I had a company to run now. My reflection in the office window showed a woman no longer hiding. Confident, powerful, unapologetic. The old Emily was gone. On my desk was a new photo, not of family but of my team at a charity event. They were my people now. Success doesn't need applause. It needs grit, heart, and maybe a dramatic barbecue reveal. My family is still processing that their failure became their biggest success, but I don't need their approval anymore. I stopped waiting the day I bought my first company. The best revenge? Being yourself, no apologies. If this story hit home, I'd love to hear what you think. Drop a comment below and share your own experiences or thoughts. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss out on more stories like this that remind us to never let anyone else define our worth. Remember, the biggest lesson here is that your value isn't set by others' opinions or expectations. Success looks different for everyone, and sometimes the strongest moves are the quiet ones. Keep trusting yourself, work hard, and stay true, because when you finally shine, the only approval that really matters is your own.